one. Hello, ladies, and welcome to the Foxhole.
Hello, George.
Hello.
Yes. All the way from the UK. You're in Scotland, right, Steph?
Yes, I'm kind of near the English border at the moment.
And Johanna, you have returned how many time zones from Rapa Nui, Easter Island?
I timed hopped. I jumped two time zones on the way there, had 3 days, and then jumped 2 time zones on the way back. And the way there is always better. The way back, it's been a week since I'm back, and I'm still struggling. I'm still struggling to wake up. It feels like waking up through like thick sand. It's horrible. Jet lag's horrible.
And how many days were you on Easter Island?
Only 3 days. So travel days was 4, 2 days there and 2 days to fly back. So I was in the air longer than I was on the island.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I just went.
That's extreme. That's about as extreme as it gets.
Yeah, went all the way there for 3 days. But the island's so tiny, you can do everything in 3 days.
Yeah.
It's only 14 miles long.
I was jealous of you just because I really like remote places. There's just something cool. Like I really got off on going to the center of the U.S. in Kansas once and deliberately drove out of my way and got out there and said, okay, as far as I can get from the coasts, I don't know. It's just something about it. I just think it'd be neat to be on Easter Island. Did you get a eerie sense of remoteness?
It's the most remote, one of the most remote places in the world.
It is.
I think it's the most remotest airport. It's tiny. You land on this tiny little airport, which basically is just one room, and the town is 4-minute drive from the airport. Everything is so compact and close, and you can see the sea from pretty much anywhere on the island because it's coastal. And when you do see the ocean, it just goes on forever, and you think you would fly in an airplane for 5 hours before you hit any land. It's very far away, kind of scary far away.
Yeah, that's why I think I'd kind of enjoy it.
I kept thinking like, how do I get if there's like a medical emergency or an evacuation? Like, how would that even be bought? Like, it scared me.
How many other tourists were there?
Oh, not that many. Like, I think we shared some of the sites with, I want to say, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 other people. It was really nice and quiet. And unlike, when you go to Egypt or Turkey or somewhere super, super populated, that's when you're like, or like the Vatican. It's you can take your time. And when we went to, Moai Mountain or the famous 15, it was pretty much like just us. And it felt like 2020 again when we went to Egypt and nobody was there.
So the famous 15, I assume that's the Moai that you most often see depicted in photograph?
There's the famous 7 and the famous 15, which are the ones that are mainly photographed, the ones that are standing up on the Ahu. And then the other one, the famous ones that are photographed are the ones that are still in the ground and the heads are like kind of buried. And
from what I heard from you on Nerdrotic and with Luke on the podcast, there are 1,000 of them out there. That shocked me too. I've checked in on Easter Island here and there for years. I didn't know there were 1,000 of them.
There's like upwards of 900. They are everywhere. Like when you're driving around, and there's a mixture of replica ones, and then there's also genuine, like just on the side of the road there'll be a genuine Moai, or there'll be them fallen over all over the place, and they at least just leave them where they are and respect them. And it's a big thing.
Presumably a lot covered up, right? There are a lot that would be covered up by the same soil aggregation that's moved halfway up many of the standing ones, right? There could be some laying down that are covered, right?
There are. There's the tour guide said that there are the ones sticking out of the ground where the heads are visible, and if you dug down, there'd be full bodies that go down sort of 15 foot, maybe more. And there's also full ones that are fully under the ground that they're aware of. They must have had some sort of LiDAR scan at some point, and they're aware of other ones, but they've just left them. They'll never be dug up. Which is annoying because the ones that are under the ground, they would have presumably like pristine carvings in the backs, and that's the one thing I was like really sad about. I was so excited to see the carvings up close, and really there's no carvings left on any Moai that's been exposed to the elements in the last 300-400 years, apart from there's a tiny stretch of sandy beach. It's the only beach on the island, and there are four to six Moai still standing on an ahu, and they are the ahu that are facing inwards, because you've got a lot of ahu that are facing out to sea, or the other way around. But they no, these ones are definitely facing inwards, because they actually have the very faintest outline of carvings on their backs, because the sand was like a natural preservation. So they were the only ones. Actually, maybe I can
get
an image up so I can
visual aids much appreciated in the Foxhole. How you doing, Steph?
Yeah,
I'm all right.
Yep.
Rockstar Steph. Right, let me just find what so it was the beachy ones. So okay, yes, I think it'd be these guys here. Okay, so these ones facing inland, and you can see the faintest carvings are still there because the sand.
And are those carvings their script? What's it called? Rongo or something like that?
No. The I love they've got like swirly butts as well.
Yeah.
Which so apparently these represented tattoos. They're the tattoos of the Moai.
Yeah.
So each thing's represented a bit differently. The engravings on the back are their tattoos, and the red colored rock on their heads, which look like hats, but they're not hats. They're top knots. They're hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think of these guys here. Here we go.
They're kind of like a man bun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this is at the beach. So obviously the sand at some point has come up, and they would have been under sand, and that's what's helped preserve the. But they erode hella quick. It's crazy how quick they erode compared to other ancient stone, and these have been like put back up, and a lot of them are concreted into place. They originally were sort of all fallen down. So this is like a restoration. Now this site was really interesting because we were looking around the back and we noticed. Okay, I noticed. Look at the bottom of this ahu, which is the platform that they're on. Can you see where my little scroll is? That's a Moai head.
Yeah.
They were recycling Moai in the structure of the ahu, which I thought was really odd to do, because considering the Moai are supposed to be like literal representatives of the ancestors and like heavily respected and revered. You're not supposed to touch them. And then someone's just like recycled a head of someone's ancestor and put it in the wall. And I was like, that's insane. And then also a couple of bricks over, we couldn't really work out what this was. It was like this kind of monkey, something with a long tail as long as its legs. And it's sort of like a monkey man. We did one of us did run up and get a photo of the head, but it's so eroded, the head's gone, so we're not even sure what it is. But again, that looked like a recycled block of something else, and that didn't match anything else we saw on the island, because it's very much there's carvings of birds, like the bird man, but not this like monkey man thing. So they were like two little weird anomalies that were on the beach site.
And it also looks like it's not meant to be aligned that way, because why would you have it standing if it's in
exactly, like it's kind of and it reminded me in Egypt when they were just recycling and re-quarrying like bits of bigger brick, because this was a pretty big brick.
Is it thought that is the, what do you call the pedestals?
They're called ahus. Yeah, this is a little bit closer of the head. Yeah, ahus, and they are traditionally where the trying to get in as much as I could. They've moved you can't get very close.
Yeah.
So if you are going to go to Easter Island, I really recommend getting like a telescopic lens, or make sure you have an iPhone that's better than iPhone 13. So you can really get in there on a quality, because I couldn't get in well enough.
They keep you how far? So they're keeping you 50 yards off of there. So
Yeah. You have to be really far back. So this is the Ahu, and this is kind of a halfway between the megalithic platform. I'm going to stop sharing for the moment and just come back to see your faces. There we go. So the Ahus are kind of like mastabas in Egypt, where they were tombs for the deceased like tribal leaders, and so they would bury the bodies underneath the Ahu, or in the Ahu, the kind of platform plinth, and then they would erect a Moai that was in the likeness of that ancestor, and then the Moai would literally like give mana, or I'm not quite sure what that is meaning, but sort of they were very revered. You do not touch the Moai, which again is weird that they would then take a head of one and then like if they're so like sacred.
But is it their understanding that that's the original pedestal that those were placed on when they were carved? Because it just looks right off the bat like even something they did in the 20th century just as a place to put them. But the tour guides tell you that was the original?
Yes, so let me show you actually. So all of the Ahus, there's I could like identify 3 kind of types of Ahu. So, and on all of the ones apart from the megalithic one, all of the other ones on the island had fallen down because they are literally just stacked tiny bits of rock. Very Neolithic style. Let me just share my screen again. Let's try and find the Ahu that look more like all the other Ahus. So where is the...
Is there a direct, like, sorry.
Can you see here? Can you see this? That's what the Ahus are supposed to sort of look like. This is the famous 7. You can see how bad it was raining that day. So there, it reminds very much of Hadrian's Wall in England. It's sort of like stacked various odd job, very, very small, like 1 or 2 people could lift a little stone, and they would build this sort of like hobbly wall, plinth platform that would have the buried remains of the ancestors underneath. So there's that style, and then there is the one that we just looked at that had the here's another one. Here we go. So this is the famous 15. So this has a slightly higher Ahu, but again you're using rocks, and if there's any gap, they're not cut, they're just finding shapes of rock, and then they're like wedging little smaller pebbles in to like create a kind of wall, but they're not it's not like...
Is that the megalithic site that y'all said that there was one example of a megalithic site there?
And then I'll show you the site. It's called Vinapu, and there's nothing else like it on the island, and it's one of the Ahus. It's this one, and this is the megalithic cut. So this is the front. So you can see here, there is these massive blocks that have been cut, and put together in the same way that you would in like Peru or Egypt, where they are cut very, very to the millimeter and locked together. Again, no mortar or no sliding little tiny little pebbles in to make them fit. They're all cut to align to each other, and you can see that the Moai have toppled off this Ahu, and the front of the wall was megalithic, and then when you went round the other side, it was smaller rocks again. I wonder, did I go round? Oh, there you go. You can see
Is that a person in the background?
Where?
Over to the right. I was just trying to get for scale. Okay, those aren't people. Okay, I got you.
No. That's the size of people.
How tall is that if you walked up to it? Okay. Oh,
okay, they're about the size of people. These walls. These bricks. Sorry. Let me. This is probably a better image of it. So you can see, and it's got the famous sort of polygonal, what is this cornerstone? This is, I think there's one of these in Egypt. It's totally different to anything else on the island, and pretty huge. And it has fallen down at this point, but actually still a lot of it is standing up. There's another random head here that's in the ground.
Are you looking? Let me ask a little bit about the sediment.
Yeah.
See how he's covered up, and many of them are, and presumably some are underground. At that location, are you? Well, that kind of answers my question. Are you at the bottom of a hill? Because for sediment to come, it has to come downhill.
So this was walking. So unfortunately, it was so grey and rainy. So much of my footage on a clear day, this is the corner of the island, and it just drops straight into the ocean and then into the horizon of just sea. So we're pretty much like at sea level here. Kind of that's literally the sea there, and here it is. This is the approach. Big.
Just wondering how all that sediment got there. It's got to come from somewhere. It's got to come from uphill.
I know, and like why? I don't know. This looks like it's sort of 2 layer. I don't know if it could go. Maybe it goes up. How many layers under here it goes? But yeah, there's one right in the ground there, isn't he? And so this is So this is an ahu that there's nothing like it on the island apart from the beach location that I just showed you. Let's just quickly go back to the beach, because this is. Can you see how there's like 2 versions on the one?
Yeah, kind of like Peru.
So this was on the beach. This was the ahu. That there's one on the sand, and there's one a little bit further up the hill. And so this is the second one. And this had big stones, like 2 layers of big stone. But again, not like precision cut, but they're still pretty big. And then you had the other side. It's almost like there were 2 versions of this. Somebody who could move the big old stones, and then people who were like, no, let's move the tiny ones. Let's see, is this the one where
even the first one that you showed us, the one that was by the sandy beach, with the little fez tops.
Oh, for scale, I ran up illegally. But look how big.
Oh my gosh, right? That's bigger than I thought.
Yeah. See,
and God knows what's underground. I mean, you already know there's 20 feet of sediment piled up there.
Yeah, then me being like, oh, illegal. Oh, great.
Well, that doesn't look like that bad of a day. I see a little blue sky back there.
Yeah, we had one good day, but it was really windy. And the rest of it was so rainy and wet. It was painful because the rain turned into like little jabs of like ice sheets. Okay, so this was the nice day where we actually got sunshine, and this was the big 15. But you can see how the ahu is so so much smaller. I was very excited. Running around the
Are they pointed out to sea? Is the beach behind us or the cliffs?
No, these are going inland towards the mountain, which is, so here's a bit of a view. Here we go. So there's the sea behind them, and they're looking inwards, and you can see how massive they are compared to the people for scale.
Yeah.
So we've got, and you can walk all the way down.
Well,
right
the
in front
ahu
of.
looks much larger than you need. It looks like it extends a lot further than just where they are. Oh wow!
It's honestly magic, and so that, and you can see like around that. That's roughly how many people were there that day. Like there was not a lot of tourists on this site, but the state of the So this is the wall behind, and you can see this is the backs of the Moai. That's the amount of erosion. You can't see any of the carvings anymore. It's just almost completely gone. Which I was very sad at because I was so excited to see the carvings. Oh, but sometimes the hands are a bit more preserved.
Yeah.
Because
they look like Mesopotamian hands. They look like Assyrian statue, to me.
Very much so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also as well, there's such a variety of not only like shape and size, but also like look at this dude. He's very skinny. You have
very unique, aren't they?
you have very skinny, pointy-nosed ones, but they all have full bodies, and there's not one that's just a head. Or you have these guys that are like kind of chunky and short. They're very much everyone looks a bit different. And even though there's like upwards of 900, nearly 1,000 or maybe more Moai statues, there's only around, I think it's 117 top knots. And they're of a different, from a different quarry place. It's red volcanic rock from a different side of the island. So I was wondering whether or not the top knot was an original part of the design. Like, I feel like this guy doesn't have a space for a top knot.
No.
And this is one of the guys that's still in the ground, was never moved from the, this is Moai Mountain. So impressive.
Wow, that's as cool as any picture I've seen. I love that.
And this is me. I was standing in front of it. You can get quite close to these ones, but it's like, just
That's
so
incredible.
eroded. I think, when we go on.
Have you ever seen an estimate for the peak population there? How many people did they think during the Moai building period?
So they've just come out with because previously they estimated like 15,000 at peak population, but they've just done a DNA sequencing of the 15 deceased native Rapa Nui people that were in a French remains were in a French museum, and they Rapa Nui gave permission for them to do the DNA sequencing on them, and it turns out that there's according to the gene pool and the DNA, I don't know how they work it out, but they said there was never more than 3,000 people, which is
just 3,000 people.
3,000 people to make 1,000 Moai over 400 years. Yeah.
On a 14-mile long island where you think you would have something better to do. It's such a monumental undertaking in such a,
look how massive they are compared to people. Yeah, it is weird considering, and that was a thought that I had while I was there. I was going, if they're such amazing, fantastic, artistic, huge undertaking of stone. Like, why this size? Why this big? Because they could be just as amazing as impressive, sort of half the size. So why this size? And also, why is the entire island culture? Why is the entire island culture not a stone carving, stone megalithic cult? Like, if you could do it on parts of the island, or if you could do it with the statues, why is the housing not amazingly stone carved? And like, it didn't seem to like translate across.
So there are no ruins of ancient stone houses or temples?
No,
or anything
I'll
like
show
that?
you
the stone. Yeah.
I'll show you the village. There's not really any remains of the original village because they lived in sort of stick, but there's a replica one. So this was the houses that they lived in, and apparently these are two size, and that would fit 15 people.
Oh my Lord!
They were like little. Like the outline of it's like a boat shape, and the outline is it's like they like recycled their boats when they arrived. Someone turned it into a house, and then the aesthetics like stuck. But they recycled their the boat shape, and there is like a kind of outline in small stone, and then they would make the rest out of wood and like thatch, which would have to be redone every week. You'd be constantly repairing, and so this was they would live in these little sort of flat to the ground long haul boathouses. This is the stone. And I was just really amazed that and then the stones around, and this was what they cooked in. This was like the open oven, which they still traditionally cook. That you can go to a Rapa Nui cookout, and they have like a kind of dance show and meal for everyone, and they still cook everything in the ground. It takes a couple of hours to prepare the meal, but that was where they cooked in. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else on that site that there's let me have a look. Here we go. So this is their chicken coop where the chickens would live. And there's a tiny hole in the front. See where that guy's leg is, and that's where the chickens would run in out, and they would like cork it up at night to stop the chickens escaping.
That's crazy, and they make that out of stone.
Yeah, and I was like, the chickens have a sort of warmer, more secure place than the humans. But yeah, considering there are like amazing stone carving, like as a society, they have the ability to move and carve and make amazing things out of stone, like really huge. I'm like, why did none of that translate into like daily life? It was just like I found it a bit of just a wild leap. This was a massive ancient Moai that had fallen over.
Whenever and whoever settled them, and I know a little bit of that. Now, I know it's controversial and yet to be fully understood, but whoever did it, it just seems that you would only go to that trouble if you knew it was the most remote place on Earth.
Okay,
that's what made it special. Seems like they were treating that island very specially. And what's special about it? Well, it's the most remote place on Earth. So it almost seems like you'd have to have some knowledge of its remoteness and of the Earth to get so excited to.
It is so. It's go on, Steph.
No, I was thinking. My memory, I could be completely incorrect in this, but is it not? It's also position as well, because Rapa Nui means belly button of the world, which is similar to Göbekli Tepe, which is pot-bellied hill, isn't it? Is it not roughly the belly button of the world if you took it out in, because it's slightly south of the equator, isn't it?
Oh, so it'd be just below the waistline of the world.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Call it Google Earth.
So, in a nutshell, what I learned, because I kind of went to the island not knowing a lot and just absorbed everything from our two amazing guides. So the Rapa Nui story is around 600 to 800 AD. Polynesian, a group of 7 Polynesian tribes, like a representative of each of these 7 tribes, traveled to Rapa Nui to start to colonize a new place to live on that island. And according to their oral traditions, these 7 tribes knew where Rapa Nui was. They were aware of it. Whether they knew exactly where it was or whether they were just following ancient lore or legend, the story is that they did not just discover it or stumble across it, or it wasn't like, it was like they knew, which makes a lot of sense because it is 3,700 kilometers away from any landmass. You've got Chile, 3,700, and I think it's kind of roughly the same to Polynesia. So if you're going to set out on an expedition, food is fine because you could fish for food, but you would need to know exactly how much water. You'd need to know how far you were going, and where, because if you wandered off for too much, everyone's dead. It's a suicide mission. So the idea that it was accidentally scouted or something, it makes sense that their origin story is that somebody was aware of that place in order to make the journey.
Here, I'll do a little presentation, even though I've had a tough time.
This is where technology implodes on us. But
that's right. I always have trouble. I was just going to take us over to Google Earth and just say it. So that's the belly button of the world right there.
It's almost like from space, the world looks like just ocean. Like
you can find a spot. It's actually a little north of here where you almost can't see any land anywhere, and it's just close. This is look at that. Look, just if you came at it from space like that, we'd look like Ocean World.
Yeah, it looks like Waterworld. It is water. It feels the most like Waterworld that I've ever been in. And also 90% of the people, there's about 6,000 to 8,000 people, residents of Rapa Nui today, and they all live. 90% of them live in the one town in the far bottom corner. The rest of the island is Hangaroa. That's it. That's the town, and you can see that's literally where everybody lives, and the rest of the island is just as it was thousands of years ago. It's untouched. It's just complete nature, and all your signal cuts out the minute that you leave the town and go around the island. Nobody had signal. Wow, quite scary.
What a
off-grid,
strange and mysterious place, man. It's almost like it had to be there.
And there's definitely something with the island because it's volcanic. There's something about the rock that is doing things magnetically to the point where I saw someone sent me a paper saying that they've actually set up a magnetic anomaly
That was me.
research. Oh, it was you, Steph. And sorry, the jet lag this week. I'm like, where did I get that information from? Yeah, they've set up a magnetic. It was like the magnetic reading station, or they're going to study it like a data capture. And they say that if you're going to fly like a helicopter over Rapa Nui, you have to be careful because you can lose control of things. And every time we went up close to the Moai, especially like the 15 and the 7, your phone battery would die in like 10 minutes. Your cameras, like digital cameras that were fully charged, it would just completely die. And there's something going on, and it interferes like electromagnetically with stuff. I went through my entire power bank.
There was credible research on that stuff. Did someone go out there? I mean,
yeah, they've set up.
That's why
not
they
just
set it up.
anecdotal. Somebody, well, let's put that paper. Let's link it to the podcast here on YouTube.
Yes,
so
definitely.
Yeah,
and also, I'll just there is a huge spherical, like megalithic spherical ball, one part of the island, with 4 smaller balls around it, which literally line up with north, south, east, west. And everyone used to as like a kind of tourist party trick. If you go near it and you put a compass in it, the compass starts going crazy. There's some magnetic anomaly with the massive ball, and apparently it's not native to the island. The early tribes brought it over. There were 4 royal tribes and 3 servant tribes that initially started the island, and then that grew to 18. And apparently there was a big political scene on the island. It's small, but there was then 18 tribes, and they were warring, and there was clan clashes. Yet somehow, between all of the tribal split ups and everything, somehow they were able to come together and make Moai. And I was asking, okay, well, were they competitively making Moai? Was it like each tribe would make slightly, and then they were like, no, all as one. And our tour guide seemed quite adamant that there was kind of like one designer stonemason that kind of conceptualized it. It's really hard to fact check. Obviously, they have the oral stories, and they have a written language, Ronga, but nobody can translate it. It's like it's a lost dead language. So until somebody or AI or something can work out what it is that they're saying. So they had their own written language, but it's all lost. So that at the minute they have to rely on the oral story. So the story is, they arrived. And then I think carbon dating wise, they say that the Moai weren't started until 1200 AD, a couple hundred years after they arrived. That's when they started carving them.
Well, and we know how difficult it is to date stone. I'm sure they must have had some trick, but do you know what their trick was? I mean, how did they carbon date? Did they have like the sleds that they were moving them around on and carbon dated that, or?
No, so they carbon date the bodies that are in the ahus, in the platforms.
The bodies, the actual human bodies.
The bodies, yeah. So the bodies that were, because the bodies that were found, I think they're some of the ones that have been pulled to the museums by the. So basically, the Europeans came and they trashed the island. They pulled the Moai down. They stole loads. They took them to France, took them to Britain, took them to Chile. Like they just kind of plundered the island. Apparently, the Rapa Nui people were like so. It was just like really traumatizing, just coming in and just ripping out.
Being alone forever and then just having your island raped,
imagine someone coming in and just like chipping off and carting off, the presidential people. Oh, what's it on the Mount? The famous Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore. Imagine someone just coming in and just whacking off the faces and taking them out. It would be like, what? That's our history. That's our. And the Europeans came in, gave a lot of people bugs and diseases because they just didn't have the immune system for it, and yeah, it's kind of a shame because a lot of the moai have like been smashed or fallen off, or the nose has been smashed off. It's kind of, yeah, it's really crap what the Europeans did. But they've been able, at least the ones that have been preserved, they've been able to carbon date, so they can know like roughly when these ancestors were being buried. So for sure, around 1200 AD, ancestors were being buried in the Ahu, and that's why they assume the Ahus were being made around that time. And then they're assuming that the Moai were being freshly carved to put on the Ahus. And then I think the other
those may
carbon
be
date,
safe assumptions, but they're not rock solid assumptions at all.
they are, so okay, I guess the best way to say it is they can accurately say, I have a really good guess of when the last time that Moai moved.
Yeah, and
It was
that kind of
it was
stands to reason it wouldn't be terribly, terribly ancient because they're eroding so quickly, right? If already you've lost the carvings on the back, if it had sat out there, God help us, for 13,000 years or whatever, they would have eroded
yeah.
away to nothing. Yeah.
And I did think that, like, I was like, because I've seen Stonehenge up close, and Stonehenge is like up close. It's quite gnarly and eroded. It's very different to the stuff in Egypt, even though they're very similar ages, about 3, 4, 5,000 years old. Obviously, the sand and the hot weather and the dry weather preserves so much in Egypt and in Turkey. But the wetness in England like erode a bit. But I it looked really similar to Stonehenge the first time I saw the Moai, and I thought, oh my god, maybe they are that old. Maybe they are 5,000 years old. And then I'm thinking, oh, they're not. I need to speak to someone like Randall. I need to get Randall to really explain to me what is the weathering rate on, because they're made of 4 different types of stone. There's volcanic tuff, which is what most of them are made of. Very soft, very quickly weathered, very porous, easy to carve. You can carve it with dolerite stone, so there's no like mystery of how they were carved, unlike some of the stuff in Egypt. No head scratching tool marks. But then there is one that's made of dolerite. I know at least one is made of dolerite, the one that's in the British Museum. And that's the one that had the best surviving carvings on its back.
And what was it carved with?
So yeah, I said that. I said, okay, so what's the dolerite? And they said, oh, even harder dolerite. So apparently dolerite comes in different levels of hardness, and you've got you've got very hard dolerite, and you've got slightly softer forms of it. So the Moai must have been a slightly softer form of dolerite, even though it's still dolerite. And then they've got the really, really hard. He pointed to it on the floor. He went, that's really hard dolerite, that you could make a blade out of that. And that's like softer. And I was like, okay, I can see. So, and then there's 2 other types that I didn't catch what they were. So I need to like research that, speak to Randall and go, what is the average, if the weather was like this and over a certain time, from first glance, it does seem to fit the idea. And I'm like, well, they're eroding quickly.
And
In
they
the
may be
museum,
eroding.
actually.
I'm just thinking that because like Easter Island used to be a different environment. Like there's a claim, I think that there's a recent paper that kind of disputed that they had sort of eaten up all of their own resources, but it used to be quite there'd be a lot of trees, were they not? So if that's completely transformed, kind of in the same way like Scotland, we used to have the Caledonian forest across Scotland. We chopped most of it down, so the barren landscape you see in Scotland didn't used to always be that way. So do you think that maybe that had an impact on how, like, is the erosion that's occurring right now happening at a faster rate of change than it was previously because there was something there beforehand sheltering it? That's what I mean.
I think that it is, I mean, it's going quick because look, so this is in one of the museums. This photo was taken in 1914, and this is just under 100 years later. And the erosion level is crazy. Considering in 1914, this carving would have been anything between 400 to 700 years old.
Yeah.
And in 100 years, it's gone from that to that. So yeah, maybe there is something. There's been a change in the ecological system there, and it's now eroding at a much faster rate. So maybe in the past, yeah, it could have been carved earlier. is this the one? No, that's not that one. There's the one. I think there's the image of the one that's in the British Museum. I'm trying to find it. No, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't have it. Oh, this was so sad. They had these up high on the crater. There are these little. It's like a ceremonial religious village that they built, kind of like hobbit huts. It's sort of into the ground. And they inside they had the most amazing paintings. You can see here there was like the Birdman religion and these amazing paintings. And again, in like 1800s, I think it was like the French, the Dutch, or the English, they went in and they blasted holes in the top of the house and then they just cracked off the paintings and stole everything from inside.
Oh my God.
It was like proper raped the whole island. It's horrendous. And I'm trying to see what I've got here. There's there's very famous iconography of the birds, the birdmen. Okay, no, I don't think I'll have to wait to find. Oh yeah, this is the one that's the one in the British Museum. This is the dolerite one.
Yeah.
The one that's the harder stone. Yeah. I know, and he has a name, a special name, like an indigenous. I think it was on definitely on one of the things. Yes, it's Hoa. Okay, I can't say that. Hoa Akanakanai. And it's carved out of basalt, and it's known for having many petroglyphs carved onto its back. And it was located in a very special place on the island, which was up high, overlooking this huge volcanic crater. And yeah, it was removed in 1868 and taken to England, given to Queen Victoria. And it says here that it means stolen friend, but then I've seen it before at the translation of it meaning hidden one or secret one. So, yeah, interesting.
Turn it over to me for just a second.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm going to show you something. I mean, this is way out there, folks, okay, even for the Cosmic Summit. But it's fun, and we're going to go see it next year. You know how I want to take a field trip to Pilot Mountain?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's this Monadnock up the road from Greensboro, 42 minutes. Well, the fella that wrote a book about it, who was a vendor at the summit this year, Jim McKelvey, the name of the book is Faces of Pilot Mountain, right?
Okay.
And what he sees, and what you can see too, let me see, boom. How do I get this bigger? Can y'all see that well?
A little bit. Maybe click on the image.
Yeah. There we go. See that?
No.
You got to catch him at the. It's kind of a long putt, but look at that one. It
hasn't caught up with us, George. At the minute, we just see a frozen.
Oh, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Oh gosh.
No.
Hold on. Now I can't get back to Riverside. Oh my gosh. Well, forget this. Gosh, I'm sitting here swinging my cursor around. Why can't I see y'all on Riverside anymore? Okay, here we go.
You got to. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me try one more time, and then I'll
try again
if I can't see.
Because I do think you've got some little demon in your computer that does not like you doing. It does not like you to share the screen.
An idiot.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah. Have you been to Pilot Mountain? Yes.
Yeah. See the Moai?
As in
the faces. Yeah.
There's the top hat. There's the nose.
I think that's very much what's that?
Pareidolia?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to let Jim show it to us because it's got more interesting. I mean, the damnedest thing about this place is the fact that we're gonna, the summit is on June 20th to 23rd. We've set the date now, and that's the solstice, right? Longest day of the year, and important to a lot of the
to
things
fit the longest summit of the year.
Yeah, exactly. And
we do run and run.
What they do, I gotta. What are y'all seeing now? Hold on.
It's
the PowerPoint.
The
We're not
PowerPoint,
seeing the tiny
page
thing.
19.
Okay, well, I'm gonna switch it and just palette mountain shadow. But okay, this is kind of cool. We'll be out there for this. Okay, let me stop sharing.
There
Okay,
is
see that there?
the
So
mountain shadow.
yeah, look how it looks like a Mayan temple.
Oh, what, the
It
shadow
points
of the...
perfect east-west or north-south, depending on. Yeah, it's perfect. Excuse me. Of course it is. It's perfect east-west at the solstice.
Mm-hmm.
And only
Right.
at the
So
solstice.
that's right. And the Cherokee came out of the mountains to presumably watch that. That they considered that very, very important. I mean, that's pretty interesting shadow, isn't it? But we'll have a chance to see that next year.
Of the natural mountain creates the triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Here's what it looks like. Just real quick, so people can see. That's what it looks like in real life.
All right, yeah, like a little castle on a hill.
Yeah, and there's nothing like that anywhere else in Eastern North America, right? So that would have been a special place.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just at least he makes a little Moai connection there.
Well, I mean, obviously the Europeans were aware of the Moai from 1722, so anybody could have, and obviously America was European populated pretty similar time, so Moai was starting to be traveled around the world to England, to everything, so someone could have, it's like that. It's not unusual that an image similar to a Moai has popped up, but what is unusual is the Moai being created originally at all, because that was 12 AD, and the only and I kept thinking that, because I was like, obviously the faces are so stylized and the body shape is quite dumpy and stylized, but the hand positioning and the elongated fingers, and then and the carvings on the back, I was like, oh, that's insane. I was like, who made that up and why? Like, why, if you're on the island and you're living quite a indigenous, primitive, in contact with nature, like their houses are so low to the ground and they're so like recyclable, like every week you've got fresh wood or fresh and then suddenly you've got someone has this idea of going, you know what, 28 foot massive with very specific style, like it's like the art. And it's weird because you don't see Moai, like you don't see the kind of evolution of the Moai of going, here was the prototypes and here's where they decided to put the hands here, or it's like just bam, there they are. And then they just keep and so yeah, there's a really good argument that the Moai were made in the medieval times, because of the erosion and things. However, there's a few, I would say the three things of Easter Island, sort of in conclusion, that are jarring. It's that Vinapoo megalithic wall, which does have a hole. Totally out of place. It has a hole in the front, which again has magnetic anomaly things with this random hole in the front. Again, why would you need a magnetic hole for basically a tomb? And yeah, again, nothing like it on the island, and it's supposedly in the timeline. It's not like dated to. They said it was carbon dated. The body's inside to 1200 AD, so it's not even like the final last one on the island. It's like they'd say suddenly decided. It just sort of pops up in the middle of the timeline, and then there's nothing like it before or after. And also the sediment, accounting for just how much sediment is under the Moai, on the Moai rather, because especially the one on Moai Mountain, the fact that it's completely covered some of them, and the ones that are standing up again, they are massive. There's ones that are still in the mountain that they carve the head and the face and everything as it was lying flat. Then they would prop them up, pop them into the ground in sort of 2, 3, 4 foot holes, which accounts for a couple of feet of sediment, but it doesn't account for the potentially 20 foot of the rest of it. And then the idea that the sediment then also So you're like, okay, so maybe on the island it just crazily gets, it's just super fast, and 400 years you can get 20 foot of sediment in 400 years. Okay. But
it's got to be runoff from somewhere. It's not just building itself up through natural processes. It's not being blown in or leaf litter turning into soil.
Maybe there was some sort of slide, like some sort of landslidey, mudslidey thing. But you got to account for a lot of ground very quickly, and it only happened categorically before 1722, because there is sketches of people who arrived when the Europeans arrived and they saw these moais sticking out of the ground in identical places. They are pretty much identical for the last 250 years. So the sediment, there was a lot of sediment in a really short amount of time, because the last moai apparently was still being made on that island in the 1600s, and then that's 122 years for basically 20 foot of sediment. So there must have been some sort of massive landslide.
Isn't it assumed, or it's part of the story, might be spun by politics a little bit, but that we raped the island, stripped off all the forests, and caused massive erosion, right? But if I went there, I'd want to sit there and say, okay, if 20 foot of sediment built up here and it eroded from up the hill, is there sediment at the top of the hill? Or is it a bald? Are all the hilltops bald and it's all moved down to the bottom? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll have to look on that. I could do a little
I used to be in kind of the sediment business, We dealt a whole lot with where sediment moves around in valleys, and it's got to come from somewhere. In fact, you call that mass balancing, and they've probably done that in some study and said, okay, right now this is 25 feet deeper than it should be, but you've got this many square miles uphill that lost 5 feet of sediment and it gathered in this valley, and that balances out ultimately. Because you can't say it blew in because there's no land nearby, so it's not collecting.
Yeah.
And there's not really any rivers, are there? There's no streams that are going to take, silt down or anything like that.
Exactly. It would have to be the natural topsoil of the elevated parts of the island slumping down to the bottom, but it just seems like a whole lot of it to get 20 feet deep.
It's a lot. And also, I feel like I need to do like a Sherlock Holmes vision board and timeline it all, because the carbon dating, so apparently they have excavated, I think, like 2 or 3 of the ones in the mountain, and then they've decided now collectively to not touch anymore. They're not going to move them, excavate them, or anything, even though it's really annoying, because if they did, we would see loads more of the precision carvings on the back and get loads more information about what they were trying to display and show. Like, we've lost it on all the hundreds of others, and there just might be, in my opinion, because there's so many of them, I feel like for the good of like humanity and the Rapa Nui community to best understand their ancestors, like their ancestors wanted them to be on display. Kind of like, I would argue heavily for like redisplaying them as much as, and we can do it now. We're not the Europeans that arrived there that are ripping them out. We'd handle them with care and whatever.
You could even cover them back up. You could even return the soil or whatnot.
I think they have. They've excavated a few and then they've put them back up. But when they carbon dated the bottom of the soil from the ones they did, they were getting, that's where they got the 1200 AD date from again. And so I'm like, okay. So I feel like a lot more needs to be potentially done to really check all of the dates and really like line it all up. Also, I think that if they're never going to allow like physical excavation, so waiting for until technology catches up and you can properly LiDAR scan the island and see if there are any other structures like Vinapoo on any other level. Is there any other megalithic blocks? But it's interesting that this 1200 AD keeps popping up in carbon dating, and that was when the Moai apparently was starting to be moved / created. And then recently they did the DNA study, and they found out that the DNA of the ancient Rapa Nui before the Europeans arrived was 90% Polynesian and 10% Native American. So there definitely was crossing and sex happening.
There's absolutely no question that there was transoceanic
so they were
communication and migration and whatnot before Columbus, for God's sakes.
But guess the date that they say that this started, that the Native Americans started mating with the Rapa Nui. What date would you
What?
guess? That's 1200 AD. So I'm wondering whether I'm like, oh, okay, is that where the link is? Did somebody in the ancient Native American world, did somebody know about maybe the design style or the idea of making 28 foot? And, someone came and married someone. And I was like, was one of the ancient designers. Oh, and we can like probably come into land with this, but one of the, when we were at Vinapoo and I was saying to one of the guides, I was like, who made this? Like, who built this and how? And he was like, we don't know. We don't know how they cut it. They didn't have metal. They only had stone. We don't know how they cut that with dolerite blades, dolerite little tools. It doesn't, you can't. So we don't know who made it. He goes, however, we do have an oral story about these others that came to the island. And I was like, really? Tell me more about that. And he was like, we don't know who they were. And I think in the story, at the end of the story, they were killed by the Rapa Nui. But I wonder if the others who came might have been somebody from, Native Americans from South America.
North America.
And maybe before they all died, some of them had a great party. And that's where
Graham Hancock established, right? Or, he didn't establish it, but science established it. And he reported that the Polynesian genes are in the South American indigenous tribes, right? So they were.
I think everybody was boating over everywhere and having great parties wherever they were. And lots of babies were made, and I think that's probably where a lot of I'm theorizing that's where a lot of the stone knowledge was maybe transferred. And I was like, because it's interesting that date keeps popping up. I was like, wait, 1200 AD keeps being carbon dated on the island. That's apparently when the Moai started to be made. That's when a lot of the Ahus were, people were being buried in the Ahus. And that's also when the gene pool started to get cross-contaminated. I was like, okay, it were the people who could, the Inca and the pre-Inca, was it that knowledge, was that being passed across? Either way, it's really incredible. But yeah, so that's
Johanna, you are a true explorer. Okay, I mean, you walk the walk, girl. Okay, you've got the curiosity that we all share at the Cosmic Summit, but you just can't help yourself. I mean,
I'm just off
all the way to Easter Island.
I don't know if I would go back quite so quick. Just because, I mean, I'd love to go back to the island, but I've got this horrible curse where I'm getting more and more travel sick as I travel.
Oh no! Yeah.
I find bus, car, and plane. The first time in my life on the flight back from Rapa Nui, I threw up 3 times on the airplane. I really struggle with it. And I'm like, man, this is like my job and my calling to go out and explore these places. But I find it physically I get ill. I always get I'm so sensitive to the change of food. And I feel like Bilbo Baggins, who's been called to do something that I'm not qualified to do. I'm just a hobbit that likes to be at home in my comforts, and it's really taxing on me to do it. But I was like, so jumping on a plane, to get on a plane, because I get so ill, I really have to really want to go where that plane's going. I'm not hopping on a plane just to pop to Italy for the weekend for what I need to be there on a mission.
Well, that's tough for somebody like you, and it's strange to see it getting worse as you get older. Maybe it'll go away. Maybe it's a temporary thing, because I don't want it to threaten your attendance at the Cosmic Summit next year.
I mean,
just to be selfish.
I was wearing the sickness bands. I was
wondering,
I had the ginger nausea tablets, and I still threw up. It was not good. And they didn't have the little sick bags anymore on airplanes. The British Airways didn't have any.
You're kidding.
So I was panicking, and I was just holding my travel blanket, and was like, I'm gonna have to sacrifice this travel blanket. I'm so sorry, everybody. But luckily I managed to hold it in until we physically landed, and I ran to the toilet and then vomited everywhere. But
oh, you poor thing.
Oh my
Who were you
God.
traveling with? Were you alone on the plane?
I was
or any
alone.
extras?
I was
Oh,
alone.
right.
The lady was trying to make me wait, so I jumped up really quickly, and she was like, "If you just wait here," and I was like, "I'm gonna be sick." She was like, "I'll take your bag, go." She was amazing, but yeah, I was like, wow. So yeah, don't sit next to me if you are traveling with me.
Yeah.
And I think I might have to like really go to a doctor and be like, I'm gonna medicate myself probably or something.
How many people were on your tour?
Oh, we
You
were about
on a
30 people. Yeah. So we were on the Adept Expedition tour. I don't know if the Easter Island was kind of a special edition. It was a special add-on to the annual Peru tour. So I don't know.
which is NEXT's, just to give him a plug. NEXT.
Yeah, NEXT. Yeah. The Adept Expedition, I've gone to Egypt and to Turkey. And Adept Expedition are really, really good, really, really solid tours. But the Easter Island one, I think it's pretty special.
Yeah, but you didn't go on the Peru leg of that tour, obviously.
No,
did you just take a pass on that? Surely you could have.
I had a wedding booked like right bang in the middle. So the Peru one wasn't, like, the Peru tour wasn't going to work out. But apparently, just a heads up for anyone want to go to Peru, there's altitude sickness. Because you're doing a lot of hiking and you're going up to crazy, and like a lot of people really struggled with the altitude sickness. They were being sick, and some people needed oxygen, and people were like passing out. And so it's it's not for the faint of heart, this exploring the world.
Not for 58-year-old fat guys, I know that. Ugh.
I mean,
I just got invited to go down there. I just got invited to go down there to a medicine lodge, right?
Oh, yes.
Ayahuasca and stuff, man. And I
100% do it.
You think so? I needed to hear that because I'm getting cold feet and I need to lock it in.
So the guys that I met up with at Easter Island, it was really special because I'd been with at least 10 or 12 of them. I'd been to both Egypt and Turkey so it was like a reunion of our little like tour group.
Oh, cool.
And a whole bunch of them had gone on the like ayahuasca extension before Rapa Nui, and they were telling me that it was amazing. And one of them said that they'd taken ayahuasca, I think in America somewhere, and they were like, this was another level. Like the shamans there was a male shaman and a female shaman, and they said it was insane. One guy, they were like, we're not going to the personal stories, but like total life transformation. One guy said he was not scared of death anymore. Like it was
that's a big payoff.
Breaks you see great stuff, scary stuff. They were lots of crying, lots of vomiting. It's like, it's intense, but I think it's like you only live once. You get to experience being a human being. And I think if you're interested in ancient cultures and ancient, just a little perspective of what they were doing, because it's such a ancient, I would 100% do it. However, it's also not guaranteed that you're going to have a trip, because there was a girl on the trip who had the cup of ayahuasca, the same as everybody else in the room, and didn't affect her.
Isn't that weird?
She necked ayahuasca and didn't trip. I think you have to be. I remember NXT saying you kind of have to be called to do it, and there's a certain level of like, I don't know. It's like the beyond has to sort of match your call to do it, or it's not necessarily gonna, it's not like a like
it needs to be kind of predestined almost. It's something that's you needed to do.
You have to kind of be,
didn't need to do it.
She didn't need to do it, and I said sort of, well, why do you think it didn't work? And she said, I got this like sort of little buzz, and she goes, I think it was because I was the only girl, and I felt very like I needed to look after all the guys, and I think I maybe I subconsciously stopped myself, even though there was a female shaman there who was facilitating and helping everyone. I think she might have, so it's very, whereas the other guys were like so ready to they were really keen to have the experience. So it's that weird thing of like psyche mixed with psychedelics has to sort of match.
Well, I've always wanted to, I've had my experiences with psychedelics, grew up in the 80s and all that, and even some since. But the problem is, we were always at concerts losing your damn ticket or shooting a fire extinguisher in the fraternity house. I mean, there was never any set or setting. There was never any time for reflection. It was always just stupid boy stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the wrong way to do
No,
psychedelics. So
it's completely the wrong way. I mean,
wrong
particularly
way.
at those music shows. I mean, the music's great,
No.
but there's always distractions, and things go wrong and you
Then,
can't handle them. I want to do something where I am settled with a shaman and have set and setting, as they put it in the
yeah,
Jonathan
and they
Pollard
guide
book.
you through. There's the one time that I did psychedelics. It was a proper prepared. It was at home in a safe space with two very trusted people. I prepared a playlist. I bought myself a constellation star lamp to project on the ceiling. It was like cushions
Nice.
everywhere. You make sure that you are showered in comfy clothes. You be very mindful of what you eat. You have to fast before you do ayahuasca, because it's very important what's in your body. And I can only say that, like you fully feel, if you eat a strawberry on psychedelics, it's like you can feel the nutrients. And then if you ate a McDonald's, you would equally feel every chemical that you're putting. It's everything's heightened. So it's, if you're dropping psychedelics with other substances and you're in a party, like you're missing.
Oh,
I think,
yeah,
the point
waiting in
of,
line to get in a bar or something. I mean, come on, that is just not what God intended us.
That's not the do it the way the ancients did it, the OGs, and I think you'd have a great time, George. I think you'd see.
Okay, well, they were nice
see
people.
the
They
creator.
were the shaman that accompanied us to Turkey when I went with the snakes and Ben.
Oh wow, yeah.
That's Fernanda, and it was very strange because there we are at the foot of Göbekli Tepe in that kind of yurt-like thing, and we're having a Peruvian shaman ceremony. In fact, we had multiple ones, but we're in Turkey, which sounds kind of awkward, but actually it really worked. It was kind of global, man, and I made friends with her, and particularly Coleman, who is her partner in this, and they bought a lodge, and people just stay on the lookout if I need to lock this thing in the next couple of days, and then I need to help fill up the tour. So I'll put that out on Twitter or something like that. And so if you're listening, reach out to me, jump in the DMs, and we can certainly get you a place. Just as we can get you a place where, Steph? June 20th through 23rd next year. So
what's
wrap it up
happening
with a
then? I
little
can't
pitch.
remember.
Yeah, I can't
Something
remember
called comic.
Yeah, you
Comic.
named it. So I know. Yeah.
Comic Mountain
Comic Mountain.
is
That's right.
the Sheen version.
Catastrophe Con, right? But yeah, so we got the date set now.
June 20th next year. Tickets are available.
That's right. We got 5 ticket types. We've sharpened our ticketing
including
system.
Moai type. We have a Moai pass.
Yeah, including the Moai. Yeah,
we've got a Moai
pass. Yeah.
Brilliant.
What's the Moai pass? That's one step up into VIP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, as they should be. They're amazing.
Yeah. Well, the tickets will never be cheaper, so it's still essentially early bird. And we just got Dan Richards from Dunking Dan is going to be there, and he's just a fantastic guy. I mean,
he's brilliant.
Make sure to go see him and Mark Young, who will be there as well.
Oh, is Mark coming this year?
Yeah, I hope so. I'm kind of
hopefully, or he'll be digitally.
He's not 100%,
either way,
but
he'll be.
Yeah. But no. I want him to get there physically, and I think he'll be able to make it. But he's got a lot of schooling, and that's got to come first. So the ticket types are up. Go see their live stream from just the other night. I think it was Saturday night, Dan and Mark, and that was just very rich, substantive, fun conversation. I mean, they did a great job.
Very long.
They got a lot of information. Yeah, it was
amazing.
It's
great.
3 hours.
I got a lot out there. Go check out the website. It helps us a lot if people purchase tickets now, because it helps us judge how many people are going to come. And if it looks like it's going to be a lot of people, it allows us to make it nicer and nicer instead of waiting to the last minute and knowing that, oh my gosh, we could have afforded this or that. So, and it's fully refundable. If your plans change, you can get all your money back.
Also, we're just going to shout out. I don't know if we're going to use the same catering, but the mac and cheese that was at the lunch last time was the best mac and cheese I've ever had. And me and Steph are on a personal mission. We were on a personal mission to try and recreate. Every year I do Christmas mac and cheese as part of the Christmas dinner. And I'm desperate to get that mac and cheese. It was so good. I think I had 2 portions in the one go. It was so good.
I'm going to tell Kelly Harrell of the hotel that.
It's worth the ticket just for the mac and cheese, and then it's just extras to see all the amazing speeches and talks, and it's great.
Well, thanks for mentioning the food, because we don't play it up enough, and it costs an absolute bloody fortune, and it's really good here. It's just not
beautiful food, and also
not fancy food, but just good food. Yeah.
I bought this amazing pearl bracelet from one of the vendors, and I've not taken it off since Cosmic. It's come with me to Easter Island, and it's like still intact. I got this little red one from Easter Island. These are Etsy, I don't know, but I'm so impressed by the quality of the jewelry from the vendors. So I thought we'd shout that out as well.
Oh, good. Because we're gonna.
It's not left my arm. It's beautiful.
That's fantastic. That's a good luck charm. I hope you keep it on through next year.
Yeah, my black pearl. Beautiful.
Let's see. One other thing. The social media for the Cosmic Summit is going wild. And that's all fractal. I thought it was great last spring. It's always been growing. Always very pleased with it. But starting, I think it's June 19th. So right after the summit, we had one viral video. And that led to 3 or 4 other shorts going viral, and they're still gaining. And then that just led to a larger subscriber base. And all of a sudden we went on YouTube from 6,000 followers to 52,000 today. And we've had
amazing.
Had as many as 1,000 subscribers a day. So we hope we can keep that up, and it gives a great new channel of a little bit different nature. We've got so much talent out there. Our thing's kind of automated, but we're getting the talent out there. We're getting y'all's work in other contexts and at the summit.
On the YouTube channel, can people go back and rewatch the previous year's talks now? Are they all up there?
Absolutely.
Or are we...
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks for mentioning. We're also releasing only 40% of the content from this year has been put out.
Okay.
And this week we're going to premiere the other 60%.
Nice.
Okay. So check in on the summit, and that's right. And then every hour of both summits will be on YouTube. So you can see it, you can get fired up, and you can buy a ticket, and you can come see us in June. So follow, like, and subscribe to @Cosmic Summit on all major platforms. And thank you very much, Mrs. James, for sharing your adventure with us. Yes.
Yeah, it was so amazing. And actually, one of my travel buddies, I'm going to give him a shout out, Chuck. So Chuck came with us to Turkey. Then he came and supported at Cosmic Summit. And then he came to Easter Island. So I was like, wow, it's so cool.
There's such a good crowd developing around the world. It's all weaving together.
Yeah. And people are making friends.
For years and years. Yeah.
And there was a bunch of people who I met for the first time in the Easter Island group that were really keen to come to Cosmic. And
oh, really?
And so I was
that's awesome.
Pitching it. So it's definitely getting into the sphere of the social.
Well, we're all out there watching YouTube till our eyes bleed late at night or early in the morning, and we're learning some stuff, but we gotta meet the other people. And
thanks, guys. I can't wait. And thanks for the chat. Yeah, it is.
It's almost midnight, isn't it? Yeah.
No, coming up is going to be 11 p.m. soon, but that's past my bedtime.
I understand. Says the Hobbit. Fine evening sleep. Thank you, ladies.
I will. All right. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.